Welcome back to Ghost Pirate Entertainment. I'm your host, Kanan Becker, and today we talk about 10 horror movies on Prime Video that I highly recommend. And with that, let's get to the list.
Now, the fun begins.
The Price We Pay is a 2022 horror movie. Directed by Ryuhei Kitamura, it stars Emile Hirsch, Stephen Dorff, and Gigi Zimbardo. After a pawn shop robbery goes askew, two criminals take refuge at a remote farmhouse in order to let the heat die down, but find something much more menacing.
You got yourself a regular little fun house down here.
Just go. It isn't safe.
For who?
So I've mentioned this in the past, but it was only available as a rental. And so now finally it's available on Prime Video. As long as you have a Prime membership, you won't have to pay anything extra to see this. And so hopefully more people will be able to check this movie out, because this is a weird one and a lot of fun. Because it starts out as kind of a crime mystery situation that gets darker and darker and more weird as it goes. But what makes this movie so worth seeing is the end, because this movie goes completely bonkers, off the rails, just absolutely goes for it in the final act. But even besides the ending, there are so many moments in this movie that are creepy and haunting, and imagery that'll definitely stick with you and make you squirm in your seat. But that's not to say this movie isn't without flaws. I mean, there are some issues with the writing, some of the acting isn't always the best, but I'm telling you, as long as you go into this with your expectations in check and just want to have a good time, this one is a bloody blast. Blood Vessel is a 2019 horror movie. Directed by Justin Dix and written by Dix and Jordan Prosser. It stars Alyssa Sutherland, Robert Taylor, and Nathan Phillips. During World War II, a lifeboat of survivors board a German ship, but soon realize it's crawling with vampires.
I heard flyboys talking about gremlins causing all kinds of trouble.
You know, whatever happened on this ship, it wasn't gremlins. Something far more real.
This movie is a real gem. It is a smaller movie, so you got to go into it expecting, a lower budget kind of thing. So it's not one that's necessarily going to be a game changer or anything like that. But they do a lot with what they're working with. The props, the set, everything looks period accurate and really well done. Besides that, there is some fantastic practical effects in this. The gore, the monsters, all of that stuff looks really great. It just has this really fun 1980s kind of charm to it. It reminds me in a lot of ways of movies from back then, where they weren't always perfect, but they were earnest. Everybody involved, you could tell, really cared about what they were doing, and so they put their very best into it. But it doesn't take itself too serious. Instead, it just has fun with this genre, with the situation that's going on here, and leans into it. But it's still moody and creepy and atmospheric, and there's a lot of spooky qualities to it, which is why I think it's a perfect pick for this time of year.
You don't gotta be frightened. I'm not the boogeyman.
A House on the Bayou is a 2021 horror movie, written and directed by Alex McAllery. It stars Paul Schneider, Angela Serafin, and Jacob Laughlin. The story follows a troubled couple and their daughter, who go on a vacation to an isolated house in the Louisiana Bayou to reconnect as a family. But when unexpected visitors arrive, the unity begins to unravel.
The devil is watching us all the time. Some of us invite him in, some don't.
Well, no offense, but I don't believe in the devil.
The devil believes in you.
So, in my opinion, this is the best horror movie that Blumhouse has released that went straight to VOD. It never got a theatrical run, and I think that's a real shame because this movie has a lot in it, a lot more than it seems like it will on the surface. For one, the performances are outstanding, especially Jacob Lofland. He really plays an amazing role in this. I can't say more than that because I don't want to spoil what his character is all about, but trust me when I say he gives one hell of a performance here. But the rest of the cast is great as well. It's also really well written, well shot. The location and the house in general and the way they utilize it and the location of it is really impressive because this is not a big budget movie by any means. But there's never a time when you're watching this where you feel like, oh man, not having more resources kind of held this movie back. That's not the case here at all. But the best thing about this is the story, the weird twists and turns it takes and how surprising it is, because all the way until the final act, you're really kind of guessing and not really sure what exactly is happening here. Besides that, it's pretty creepy and unnerving and definitely keeps you on the edge of your seat. So if you've never seen A House on the Bayou, this is one that I highly recommend.
Now you die.
Phantasm.
Phantasm is a 1979 sci-fi horror movie. Written, directed, photographed, and edited by Don Coscarelli. It stars Michael Baldwin, Reggie Bannister, and Angus Scrimm. Newly orphaned teenager Mike, his older brother, and their friends face off against a mysterious grave robber known as the Tall Man. So anybody that's been watching this channel for a while knows that this is my favorite horror movie of all time. I even did a video of all of my 10 favorites, and this was at the top of the list. Like, I just adore this movie. Now, that's not to say that I think it is the best horror movie ever made. That's kind of a different situation. But as far as my favorite, this is without a doubt, hands down, my favorite. It's just so much fun. It's so weird and trippy and confusing, but also creative and imaginative and creepy and unnerving, disturbing. I mean, it really has so many layers to it and does so much. And so every now and then I gotta mention it because I know there is a younger audience out there that has never seen this movie. And yeah, you may not be a big fan of older movies, classics, whatever, but this is one that I think you should still give a try because it's so unique and so imaginative in the way that it's presented and the way it looks, the performances, all the different things that I think you'll still probably have a great time with it because it really is like no other horror movie that's ever been made. And this summer, I was able to go to Fantastic Fest, which is really something I've been dreaming about doing and working towards for a very long time because it's pretty much the premier genre film festival that happens every year. And while I was there, I was actually able to meet Don Coscarelli. He was just kind of standing out there one day. He was there for a couple different things, but he was just standing there and I was like, hey, I'm a huge fan of Phantasm. It's great to meet you. And we ended up having a full-on conversation. And then eventually a couple other YouTubers came over and we were all just standing there chatting about horror movies and what we were enjoying at the festival. And that was just one of the coolest moments I've ever had because I'm not someone that goes to conventions and waits in line for autographs and things like that. It's just not an important thing to me. For me, meeting someone is about having a conversation, getting to know them. That's what I care about. And so to just be in a situation where I was able to and really have a legit conversation with him was really, really a cool moment. And they say to not meet your heroes, but I was able to meet one of mine and he was incredible in person. Everything you would hope someone of his stature in the industry would be. But either way, that just deepened my respect and love for this movie so much. So if you're younger, like I was saying, or if it's just been a while since you've seen this, do yourself a favor and check out Phantasm. Meander is a 2020 French sci-fi horror movie, written and directed by Matthew Turi. It stars Gaia Weiss and Peter Franzen. It's about a woman who wakes up to find she is trapped in a series of tubes with dangerous obstacles and traps everywhere. So she must escape in order to survive.
Help! Help!
So in a lot of ways, this reminded me of the sci-fi classic The Cube, which is a really great little indie movie. This is kind of a similar budget and situation here, that you can tell they don't have everything at their disposal, but yet they make a lot out of what they have because it's imaginative and creative. The different traps and situations that this woman has to get through and finds herself in have a really unique look and feel to them, which really speaks to the creativity of the people involved. It's also pretty twisted and surprising and goes in some interesting directions that I did not expect. But it is a very small movie, so you don't want to go into this with too big of expectations. But if you're just wanting something interesting and unique and different and just are looking to have a good time, I think this one is fantastic.
I'm gonna give you something. It's gonna make you feel even better.
Dead and Buried. Dead and Buried is a 1981 horror movie. Directed by Gary Sherman, it stars Melody Anderson, Jack Albertson, and James Ferrantino. The story's set in a small coastal town where after a series of gory murders against visiting tourists, the corpses begin to come back.
Is there any way whatsoever to reanimate people after they have died? To get them to walk around?
It blows me away that this movie is so underappreciated. I don't really get it because a lot of 80s movies have these cult followings, and this feels like it definitely should as well because the look of it, the style of it, it's unique. And yeah, it does have a zombie element about it, but there's more to it than that. And the different unique wrinkles and things that it does on that are what really make this special. Besides that, the overall look, the atmosphere, the way it's shot in this little coastal town is awesome. I am a big fan of stuff like that. That's why I love the old classic The Fog. Just movies that take place in small seaside towns that are creepy and you don't know what's exactly going on and they're mysterious and foggy and all of that. I eat that stuff up. And this is just drenched in that. There's so many scenes in this that are haunting in that really fun, spooky way. But I think if you're a fan of 1980s horror or are just a fan of movies that are unique and different and kind of fly under the radar, this is one you definitely need to see.
All that is left is to make him. Delicious.
Gretel and Hansel is a 2020 dark fantasy horror movie. Directed by Oz Perkins with a screenplay by Rob Hayes. It stars Sophia Lillis, Sam Leakey, and Alex Krieg. A young girl leads her little brother into the dark woods in a desperate search for food, only to stumble upon a nexus of terrifying evil.
It smells of cake.
It's really crazy to me because Oz Perkins has really made a huge name for himself lately in horror. He started to make some noise with Blackcoat's Daughter, but then last year, Longlegs really put him squarely on the map. And then this year, he's had The Monkey, and then he has a new movie coming out in a couple weeks in November called Keeper that just released a brand new trailer today and looks just terrifying and weird and creepy. Everything that I love about what Oz Perkins does. But it's amazing to me that this movie still flies so far under the radar and doesn't get more love. Because this is the movie where I really started to take notice because I was a little late to the party on Blackcoat's Daughter, and I stand by the fact that I think that's his best movie to date. But man, this movie works on so many levels. For one of the biggest things that he is known for is the look of his movies, how amazing they look. And this is no exception. It is so moody, creepy, atmospheric. The location, the different unique costume design, props, all of that is amazing. But what really to me makes this movie just absolutely incredible is the camera work, the different angles, the way the scenes are shot and put together. everything feels off, everything feels disturbing and uncomfortable. Besides that, it's a cool twist on an old fairy tale, and the dark directions that it takes it, how bleak and disturbing it gets, I love, man. I know that this may not work for a lot of people, and that's fine, but I love the directions that this takes. I love the little different things that it does with the fairy tale. Beyond that, Alice Krige is phenomenal in this. She is so creepy and scary in this role. From the way she looks to her mannerisms, everything about her performance just leaps off the screen in the most terrifying way. So I really wanted to talk about this week because to me, this movie, more than almost any out there, just feels perfect for this time of year. Not just necessarily Halloween, but just fall in general, when the leaves are starting to fall and it's starting to get cold out and there's that eeriness, that creepiness in the air. This movie fits right in the pocket of that. So I love this movie. I think it's really special and absolutely a perfect pick for the spooky time of year.
What the hell happened here?
Dead Birds is a 2004 Western horror movie. Directed by Alex Turner, it stars Henry Thomas, Nikki Acox, Patrick Fugit, and Michael Shannon. A group of Confederate soldiers hole up in an abandoned plantation after robbing a bank and soon find themselves at the mercy of supernatural forces.
The hell is that?
Looks like a wild boar or something.
Let's move on, shall we?
This is another one that is so underappreciated. It is ridiculous. Like, I think it's criminal because this movie is so creepy. It's weird, uncomfortable, like the look of things as well as the weird storytelling and the things that happen in this, very creative and not like anything else I can think of. It also does a great job of looking like the period that it takes place. The costume designs, the location, all of that is really well executed, but it's the haunting nature of it and the different twists and turns that were really unexpected that this movie does that make it worth seeing. Besides that, it has a great cast in it who do a really good job. The only drawback in this movie, and the only thing that I have any issues with whatsoever, is just some of the CGI isn't the best. You could tell that this movie isn't working with a massive budget, but there is still a lot of practical effects, especially when it comes to the kills and the gore and things like that. It's just some of the supernatural elements where the CG is just not at the highest of levels. But if you can look past that, I think this is one hell of a movie that's definitely worth your time.
Deathless paradise of terror, where fear eternal lives.
The Dunwich Horror is a 1970 supernatural horror movie. Directed by Daniel Hollier, it stars Sandra Dee, Dean Stockwell, and Ed Begley. A man travels to Arkham University to borrow the legendary Necronomicon, but little does anyone know he isn't quite human.
Princes of darkness and repossess the earth.
So I talked about this before, but unfortunately when I recommended it then, I didn't realize that I was talking about a movie on Tubi that has a similar name, but it isn't this movie. And so when I saw that this movie, for sure the right one, is available right now as long as you have a Prime membership, I had to talk about it. It's one of my favorite classic movies, especially if you're talking about Lovecraftian horror. Because yeah, it is a little campy and cheesy. There's definitely some stuff in this that if you're not a fan of 1970s horror, you might think it's a little silly. But the story in it, the cast, the way it looks, the location, the different directions that it takes it, it's really a cool movie. For one, I'm a big fan of 1970s horror. I love the pacing of the movies back then, the aesthetics, the cast, and the way that performances were done in horror, where it could be bleak and disturbing and dark and all those things. but in a very unapologetic way where they weren't necessarily trying to give you a happy ending to a movie. It's one of the things I really love about 70s horror, because once the 80s came around, you kind of started to getting more and more of these happy endings to horror, which is fine. I'm not saying I have an issue with a movie not ending in a super bleak way or whatever, but I do appreciate that more darker edge to 70s filmmakers and how they were pushing the boundaries and doing things that weren't necessarily to please an audience, but instead to just make their film what they envisioned and not really worry if it was going to make money or whatever. It's what I love so much about indie horror today, especially stuff that Neon puts out, A24, and other small indie companies, because they're able to just make their movie and not have this super worry about making $1 billion. So I think this movie has a lot of charm in the creepy, atmospheric way that things are done. And so if you've never seen it, I think it's one to definitely add to your list.
I'm not even sure I'm in the right tuning. Brother to steal.
Deathgasm is a 2015 New Zealand comedy horror movie, directed by Jason Lee Howden in his directorial debut. It stars Milo Cawthorn, James Blake, and Kimberly Crossman. It's about two teenage boys who summon an ancient evil entity by delving into black magic while trying to escape their mundane lives, only to unleash hell on Earth.
Wouldn't it be crazy if the music had something to do with demons?
So while I was at Fantastic Fest, another movie I was able to check out was a sequel to this. It's crazy. It's been 10 years and they finally made a sequel to it. And it's just as bonkers, just as gory, just as over the top and fun as this one is. So if you have seen this and you're a fan of it, definitely keep an eye out for the sequel. I looked and it doesn't have a release date yet. I'm sure it's still looking for distribution. But I think it's a really fun one that a lot of you are going to really enjoy as well, especially, like I said, if you're a fan of this one. But this movie's wild, and really, for anybody out there that's a fan of metal music and stuff, especially metal from the 80s, there's a lot of fun qualities to this about that as well. And then on top of that, it's got these wild, over-the-top gore effects that are all practically done. The zombies look great. The different things that this movie does, some of the wild imagery and music video almost qualities that it comes at you with, I think it's fantastic. I just think it's so much fun and definitely a perfect pick for anybody out there that enjoys practical gore, monster makeup, all of those things, especially fans of 1980s carnage, gory fun. This movie fits right in with that style. And I just think it is a perfect pick for this Saturday night. So do yourself a favor this weekend, pick one of the movies off of this list, grab your popcorn and your candy, and enjoy! And like always, thank you so much for watching. Please crush that like button. And remember, guys, horror can be fun. And I'll see you guys next time.